and I zipped up the bride and the zip opened out. Fashion never interested me. I packed my bags to leave and I made my first 500 rupees with those sandwiches. I look after my house as a housewife and as a mother. I attend to my kids. It's my reality. Tomboy. I hated playing with dolls. I hated making ponytails.
And so how has your family changed your creative lens?
Me trying to complete clothes for the biggest show in India for Sridevi. It was called the Juma Juma show, where Mr. Bachchan and Anil Kapoor and Sridevi used to tour the whole world. I was completely in love with that.
What was the first yes that changed your life?
My first national award at the age of 21. The smaller wins are the wins that I get every day. We've done mistakes, we've created our mistakes, we've learned from them and we are moving on. This period film mein ma'am aap hi kar sakte ho. Because every film I have done has struggle moments.
How do you figure it out?
You have to read between the lines. Yes. What do you think as Neeta Lula, what would I do? Oh, I'm learning from you and thank you. I could write books and books and books on them. She only does red lehengas. So Sridevi looked at me and said, what's wrong with you?
When do you actually realize when to pivot?
I think it was Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam for me, where suddenly everybody spoke about fashion and clothes and everything. We are fashionable, we have arrived, we are there. Can study the coming trends. I study trends. It kind of engulfs me, it excites me, it intrigues me. What kind of patience do you have to combat that? I kind of come from an era where we didn't see work-life balance.
Does she blend your style in her generation?
It's not necessary that my kids are my second in command.
Do you see your legacy going beyond fashion?
I'm getting goosebumps even thinking. I was looking at the road and looking at the chai, looking at the road and looking at the chai. Damn, that thing should not fall. The biggest sacrifice, I guess, you're not selfish if you want to make that choice of doing the work. It's a choice that you make. Sitting here enjoying a talk is success. Getting a bride to come and tell me that how much she loves her outfit even today is success. Jeena yahan, marna yahan, iske siwa jana kahan.
We are joined by a true icon into the world of fashion and creative leadership. With a career spanning over 4 decades of movies, she has not just been a designer, she's been a storyteller who's graced over 400 films. Cinematic legends like Devdas, Jodha Akbar, Lamhe and Mohenjo-daro. The only Indian designer to be awarded at Cannes. She's none other than Neeta Lula. Neeta is a 4-time National Award winner, India's highest honor for cinematic excellence, a pioneer of costume design in Indian cinema, and a mentor to countless emerging designers. But beyond the glamour, we'll get to know the emerging Neeta behind the Neeta Lula. The curious girl, the early dreams, the quiet moments of her life which actually helped her shape her legacy. Beyond the awards and runway lights, who's the woman behind who redefined Indian fashion? Let's find out. Let's rewind to the very beginning, Neeta. What was little Neeta like?
Oh, tomboy. I hated playing with dolls. I hated making ponytails. I was all the time on motorbikes. I used to go with Dad to his grape vineyard and learn how to prune the plantation and prune the grapes, and that was something I loved doing. My morning drives on Sunday morning with Dad through the vineyards, which was in Shamshabad in Hyderabad, and talking to him, talking about life, listening to music, listening to how he spoke to people. I guess that is where my learning came from also, looking back. But my dad treated us like, be who you want to be, Wow. It's not about being a girl and a girl should do this and a girl should do that. You should know everything that even boys know, banking, playing snookers, driving the car, and we were 4 sisters and each of us took our own calling. And I think that's where little Neeta was. Playful, funny, tomboyish and loved to dance, loved to just enjoy the little things of life.
Is Neeta still the same?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I don't think we grow up. Our inner selves, remain the same.
Yeah.
Though with time, with work, we kind of build this thing around us. People build a perception around us. And when you speak to them for a longer time, they say, oh, you're so different. You're so simple. You're so, but that's how you're supposed to be because that's who you are.
Right. So you studied fashion.
No.
As an escape. You didn't?
Yeah, I studied fashion as an escape.
Yeah.
Yes.
We wanted to know why.
So I was all of 16 and I hated studying. Even today, I don't like to read books or whatever. I hear books, I speak to people, I listen to people. And I hated studying. And I was in Mumbai asked for college, and I joined 11th standard and I bunked all of my 11th standard and my dad found out. And he said, if you don't study, I will get you married. And we had a big, like a filmy drama at home, and I said, I will get married. I don't want to study.
So that means you were rebellious as well.
I was rebellious as well and I got married at 16.
Oh, okay.
And got married in a very highly educated family. My husband's a gold medalist, MD, DPM. Psychiatry. My father-in-law was the same.
Okay.
And the credentials of my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were identical in literature. So I was just 10th standard, 35% dhakka maar ke paas. And I said, okay, let's just get married. And then my in-law said, you can't sit at home. You need to do something. I was like, oh my God, I got married because I didn't want to do anything and they're asking me to study. So I called mom and I said, I'm packing and I'm coming back.
Yeah.
She said, sit quiet. You asked to get married. Now you stay there.
So what was the image of marriage when you wanted to not study and just get married?
I came from a joint family. So I saw my chachis and my cousins and all having fun, cooking, sitting, thinking about what they will eat, what they will cook, going for movies, doing embroideries and stuff. So I thought this is what life is all about. It was all hunky-dory. So let's just get married and do the same and go for movies.
And how did you deal with the paradox when you thought marriage is all about this being hunky-dory, just embroidering, pursuing your hobby, and you were pushed to study?
I packed my bags to leave.
Literally.
And of course that didn't happen. And I was made to study, do my 12th standard. And even there I didn't study. I used to have a comic book between my books. So my husband used to come back from his college and his work and teach me. So yeah, that's how it went. And I think in the second semester, I took up tailoring because they said cooking or tailoring. I'd had enough of cooking in my family. So I said, no cooking. I don't want to think about what's the next, dinner or lunch going to be like. So I took up tailoring. I said, new clothes, fun. Let's just do it. Let's try it. They're saying, but I won't manage it. So they'll have to give up.
So did fashion interest you, or whether it was just not cooking and then landing up to tailoring?
Fashion never interested me, of course.
Oh my God.
My dad used to get me these books, fashion magazines. Ki kuch to dekh legi, seekh legi. And I used to go through the magazines and see, okay, so Cyndi Lauper's wearing this jacket upside down. I used to try it in front of my mirror. But I never used to read what was written.
So, Neeta, tell me, before we jump, I wanted to know what was the fashion at that time. What was the scenario? I mean, we are talking about
80s.
Wow.
Punk rock. Torn jeans, upside down jackets being worn, punk rock, so pink hair, bold jewelry, the size of your pearls, that size of pinks and blues and fluorescence and pink jackets, Gloria Vanderbilt jeans, torn on the sides, torn everywhere, bejeweled. Mm-hmm. It was the era of everything that was all ostentatious, all put together. It was more is less.
Oh,
you could say, you
yeah.
know, and it was great
A
fun.
lot of colors.
So yeah, that is where my tryst with fashion started. So when I was bunking college, my teacher said, "We'll call your husband and tell him that you are not attending." So no, please don't do that. I will attend. And my fourth semester, I started actually attending and listening to, you know, what they were telling me and what the teachers were talking about. And my history of costume teacher spoke to the principal and said she has an eye and a knack for history of costumes. Ask her to do a PhD. So the principal called me and said, "Do a PhD in history." I said, "There's no way.
At all.
I am not doing no PhD, ma'am. Not happening." And Hemant was my mentor in college, and he saw the spark in styling and designing and putting clothes together. So he asked me to assist him. So we used to have these fashion shows where we modeled ourselves. So I used to do makeup with him for about 60, 70 students at one time. And I learned a lot from that, you know. And yeah, my my third and fourth semester, that was the second year of college, I really attended, listened,
Really.
and took in.
You started small after graduation, when you completed. So what kept you going?
So I've been a person who always goes with the flow, Neha. I don't think about a planned strategy. And even today, I don't think of a planned strategy. I will jump right in. There are certain instances in my life which are very funny where I've jumped right in and realized, what have you done, Neeta Lula? Do you really think you can do
We
it?
love to know that.
So I used to kind of, I jumped into fashion choreography. I wanted to, you know, direct shows and modeling, and that was my calling. For 2 years, I did that. And then I got an opportunity to work for a film. And I worked for that film as well, but at the same time I needed a machine, you know, to tailor garments. And dad, as it is, didn't want me to study and work, because
So
you
was he
come
happy
from
when
this
you-
family that, and he would say कि हमारे घर की लड़कियां काम करेंगी. And anyways, I was married, so he had hardly any say in that. And my in-law said, "Okay, if you want to work, you can work, but you have to come home before 7 o'clock." That was the deadline, and I was too much of a rebel to ask my in-laws for money to buy a machine, or to ask dad, because dad said, "Why do you need a machine?" So I started to make sandwiches
Oh.
at home, and I sold sandwiches, and I made my first 500 rupees with those sandwiches, and I bought my
these sandwiches were
first
sold to.
school children
Wow.
in next to my house. And I bought my first second-hand brother machine.
Wow.
And I kept a karigar, and I used to cut the clothes myself. And I started my work like that.
But I'm sure getting a movie, even at that time, would have been a big deal. So how did
No, it wasn't.
No,
Neha.
oh,
Sorry
okay.
to cut you on that, but
Sure,
it
sure.
wasn't, because films was not a thing that time. You know, there was a great divide between mainstream fashion and films. And my mentor, Jeannie Noroji, was very upset when I said, "Ma'am, I'm doing a film." She said, "What is wrong with you?
Oh.
You are so talented and you'll go and do a film?" I said, "Yeah, I would like to do a film, because I was very fond of Sri Devi, you know, and I
Yeah.
wanted to do
Who isn't?
something." And Xerxes Batena was a designer at that time who I really looked up to. He was Hemant's friend, Hemant Trivedi's friend,
yeah.
and he had done the gold gown for Parveen Babi, Jawani Janeman.
Yeah.
And I was completely in love with that. So I said, one day I want to do this. And that's how this happened.
Wow. So what was the first yes that changed your life?
It was always a yes for everything.
For everything.
Everything. Stagnation.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
I want life to move. I think the wheels are meant to be there to
Roll.
take you forward and to roll. So
Great.
I don't want that. And I think every destination accomplished takes you further to a newer destination.
True.
And I really honestly feel that every day for me is a learning process. You know, I learn new things. I pick up, I grasp new things. And those new things help me better my skill.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, I'm very skill and technique driven at work, and I want to learn new things. And obviously, if I teach as well, Neha. So when I speak to the students. I say, "Oh, is it? I didn't know this." Ma'am, don't say this as if to
Yeah,
say you
yeah.
didn't know. I said, no,
Yeah.
but I really didn't know. I'm learning from you, and thank you.
Yeah.
When I learned the Gen Z language from them, I mean, ma'am, you're so riz. I said, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm as riz as it gets. So they say, like, you know what it is? I said, yes.
That's true. Okay. So since you've been, of course, modest about your journey, I'm sure all of us are proud, and so are you, about yourself. Do you have a moment in life where you thought that, I'm really proud of myself, what I did?
I'm not proud of myself. I'm happy.
Content.
Happy about myself. I'm happy about the journey, and I'm happy the way it is moving forward.
Great.
Because it's all great to look back and say, okay, I made this mistake, but this is, I'm happy and I'm proud. No, I don't think that's the way you look at life. That's my perspective. People say I'm modest, but no, it's not. It's my reality. It's that I just feel that you need to know that it is a progressive journey.
Correct.
And when you enjoy this journey, Neha, when you enjoy the fact that you know what you're doing, even today when I speak about my work, I get goosebumps.
Yeah.
Even about like yesterday what I did, I'll get goosebumps.
Wow.
So when I enjoy that much,
Yes. Indulgence.
I don't think there is scope to be proud. There's always scope to be very happy about what you've achieved.
There's so much noise around luxury fashion. Social media hype, fast trends, influencer culture. A person who has built a legacy rooted in craftsmanship and storytelling, how do you, navigate this noise?
So a lot of what you're hearing today, we've already been there, done that.
Yes.
And then came a period where you kind of worked with the digital medium that was introduced. Then you worked with the lull of COVID and the exceptional sound and noise on the digital medium that came about with COVID, where everybody was sitting at home and everybody had something to say. And at that point onwards, the entire digital scenario got a little confusing.
Yes.
And now it's getting on track. And it's getting to storytelling. So any kind of lifestyle aspect that you see follows a cyclical nature. Even when there is the recession, you'll see the recession, then people are starting to get out of it, and then again it goes into overindulgence for a period of time, going into recession. Or a fashion style that somebody introduces will slowly get accepted, go up, become very, very popular, and then fall down and then again come back. So there is a cyclical nature to each and everything in life.
Correct.
Therefore, even for the digital medium, the aspect of storytelling is suddenly coming about. And Gen Z is, to my mind, speaking to their elders, understanding what they saw, and it's intriguing them. So now they're talking about sustainability, storytelling, and everything. And for someone who's been there, done that, and trying to check and walk that path of now you see it, now you don't, to get back on track and do it, it's kind of adventurous.
Yes.
Because you're trying to get the new format of storytelling. I'm, after so many years, trying to get back on that social media, on Instagram, and do the storytelling like I had done. And for me, luckily, I have all the data banked from previous, so I bring it out, give it to my team and say, here, go for it.
Yeah. We often celebrate the big wins, the awards, the runway moments, the iconic film releases. But sometimes there are quietest victories which shapes us and our journey. Can you share an anecdote from your journey which has shaped you and you've never been vocal about?
So my first national award at the age of 21 was a tryst between me trying to complete clothes for the biggest show in India for Sridevi, It was called the Juma Chuma Show, where Mr. Bachchan and Anil Kapoor and Sridevi used to tour the whole world, 20 cities or something, trying to complete that versus getting the national award, which was announced. And everybody was talking about it because those days national award was huge
And this was for Lamhe.
for Lamhe.
Yeah.
And I just looked at my husband and I said, go and collect the award on my behalf. It's in Delhi somewhere, so just go and collect it because I can't leave.
Yeah.
And he kind of looked at me and he said, do you even know what the national award is? I said, no, and I don't care because I can't finish these clothes if I go from here.
So nice.
So it so happened that he came to pick me up from shoot. And those days he used to, pick
Yeah.
me up or
Yeah.
drop me or whatever because my timelines were 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
So Sridevi was there and he said to her, ma'am, she is refusing to go to pick up her national award. So Sridevi looked at me and said, what's wrong with you? You're not going to pick up your national award. I said, no, who will finish your clothes?
Yeah.
She said, nothing doing, you are going. And the morning of the national awards, I reached there at about 3 o'clock. We were supposed to get in at 4. Everything was sorted for me. I reached there. I went in, and when I went up to take the national award, my whole body was shaking. I was like, oh my God,
Did it
what is
sink
the
in there?
magnitude of this? It sunk in, and how?
Oh,
I was in shock.
I know.
So then to my 4th national award, where they said, "Aap to ghar ke hain, abhi aa jaiye."
Guys, so
yeah.
I should, tell my audience that Neeta has been one of those few designers who've bagged 4 national awards in her kitty, and she's the only Indian to be awarded at Cannes as well. Great. All right.
So the smaller wins are the wins that I get every day,
Wow.
which are most satisfying. I'm actually working on a film right now, and it's a challenging film.
Okay.
Which of my films are not challenging? Let me know. And to be able to get on set, to understand what is required, because the timelines of this particular film are very tight, required, and to be able to do it in an hour and a half,
Oh my God.
and to achieve it correctly,
Yes.
where the actor comes out and says, thank you, ma'am, this is perfect. That is the win. To be able to have a bride who comes to you and you look at the face and say, this face is familiar. And she says, ma'am, you made my dress 20 years back. And I still wear it and it still looks beautiful and it's still as good as new. That is a win for me.
How do you figure it out? I mean, something which is timeless. How do you do that?
I don't know. People inspire me.
Wow.
When I'm working for a bride, I'm speaking to her, I'm making notes, I'm sketching her nuances, the way she speaks, her mindset, her nature. What are her fears? What are her triumphs? What is she happy about? The look in her eyes when she sees a particular color. All those things inspire me.
Wow.
In films, my stories inspire me. When a director is so passionate about things, or an actor is, or the actor leaves it to me to, I leave it to you. You do what you have to do. Just make it happen. Those things inspire me. Those things challenge me.
How do you visualize characters? This is something that, we see from a different lens. How does your creative lens, comes in picture? How do you get there?
So, for me to just say that I hear the script and I design would be like cutting it short.
Okay.
There is my background of choreography and fashion shows has given me the innate ability to kind of visualize.
Yeah.
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 And for someone who said no to a PhD in history of costumes, I'm only doing historic films. Everybody comes to me, he's period film hai, ma'am, aap hi kar sakte ho. And by force, I'm studying, I'm going to the library, I'm reading up on kingdoms, I'm doing history research.
Yes.
And reading the script, again, like I told you, I hated reading. I have to read the script 3 times to visualize it, to understand the character. And when I said that journey teaches you, so the techniques that I've learned in the past, the people I have met, sometimes somebody connects.
Yes.
Maybe today the smile on your face will probably connect with me for some character later on. I don't know.
Correct.
The way you're dressed, maybe, something will connect. So these things inspire me and connect. And when I'm reading a script, they come back. And then I sit with the director and I talk to him and I say, this is what I'm looking at. And these are the colors I'm looking at. And, then it works. And then technicalities work for me.
Right.
So I work on the techniques where I see to it that the actor is comfortable in what they wear. So when I do that, there is no point of them asking me what is the design.
Right.
Because prima facie for an actor or for a character, it's important that they are comfortable to emote.
Yes.
So that is how it comes about. And somehow because of all what I've learned and my foundation of education in the business, I think it has helped me.
In my next question, I want to, you to picture this. Okay. You're a fresh out of college fashion graduate. So do you still think you'll be the Neeta Lula in the world of AI and cutthroat competition?
Absolutely. There's no doubt.
So I'm sure you have a punch in a lot of traits that you feel that, is within you. I want you to speak about it loud.
Rebel.
Rebel.
Absolute
Okay,
rebel.
all right.
And today I've made friends with AI. So I talk to AI. What do you think as Neeta Lula, what would I do?
Yeah.
And it gives me answers, but then I tweak it because AI is AI.
AI is AI. Yeah.
I'm me, won't have my 40 years of experience.
Correct.
So you add that and you add this and you make it happen and you make it larger than life and you make it big. So why not use it?
Wow, that's great. What about the secret success that not many people acknowledged, something quiet which is deeply meaningful to you?
I'm going to take a little more time on this one because I think everybody should hear about it.
Yeah.
As they say, aged wine gets better with age.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us in today's time, especially out of ignorance of the body of work, face ageism.
Yes.
And if you see Vivienne Westwood, if you see Karl Lagerfeld, if you see all the big designers got better with time.
Yeah.
And that is only because of experience.
That's right.
So as creative people, we have the boon to get better with age because we learn the techniques, we've done mistakes, we've created our mistakes, we've learned from them and we are moving on.
Yes.
But if you keep in touch with the youth of today, because times are changing, though the cycle comes back, it comes back with a fresher perspective.
Yeah.
And to have that perspective, you need to be in touch. You can't say, I have arrived.
Yes.
You can't do what I have done. No,
Yes,
you have to keep your mind and ears and eyes open. And you have to be humble enough to accept that this is a changing time.
Yes.
I learned from my 6-year-old granddaughter.
Yeah.
So that is one aspect that you have to keep in mind. But ageism kind of hits you in the face. And sometimes people think that, she only does red lehengas. Is she really working? And is she doing something at all? But the quiet success is the fact that I'm busy 22 hours a day.
Wow.
Because I'm doing films, I'm teaching, I'm doing bridal couture, and I'm painting. I take out time to be with my grandkids.
Wow.
So that for me is a quiet success. Maybe I'm not seen on the fashion weeks or whatever, but so what? As long as I have a successful career going and I've been maintaining this for the last 40 years. So that is my quiet success.
Amazing, amazing.
And I look after my house as a housewife and as a mother.
Wow.
I attend to my kids.
That's just make you content and happy within.
Yeah, you have to be happy.
Which is so good. I mean, I was just imagining and visualizing that how does it really happen. People get carried away with the limelight, and they start acting a certain way, being a certain way. What are some behind the scenes struggles in the movie or in life which has stayed with you until today?
I could write books and books and books on them,
Yes.
because every film I have done has struggle moments. Every bride I've worked with has a challenge in her life and struggle moments that we work with. Because I'm speaking about two perspectives together, because I'm doing both together, bridal couture. So when the bride comes with like 10 people in the family, and she can't say a word, and she's like, you have to read between the lines.
Yes. Yes.
And you have to understand and give the courtesy to the family members, to the parents, to everybody for their being so over enthusiastic about a bride, and the bride wanting to do what everybody should be happy about. And then you are this doctor who comes in and has to walk that fine line where all are happy.
Yeah.
So that is one. Then in films, every day there is a struggle moment. Suddenly the script changes or some scene changes, and the director wants something which has to be done in like an hour and a half, because they don't have time. Time is of essence. So as a technician, are you aware enough to be able to cut that short and create it, and give it to them in time? So these moments come about. I'll share a small anecdote with you. We were shooting for Jodha in Sambhar, Jaipur.
Okay.
Right in the middle of nowhere. Sambhar is a huge land. It's just a flat land.
Yeah.
250 soldiers here, 250 soldiers there, CG artists already. And we realized that we needed a commander-in-chief. And we were all standing at one place, because that was the only place that could not be seen. And Ashutosh Gowarikar says, Nita, I need an armor. What do we do? I said, okay, hold it, let me think. And we were looking about, and my dressman and I was there, and I saw a tin peti lying there. I said, isko nikal. So he said, ma'am, and he kind of knew what I was getting at, He said, ma'am, fir saman. I said, wo nikal. And we took that, and I said, ab cut. And I cut it for him into an armor. And they were all standing there watching, like, what is she doing? So I took an aluminium peti and I cut it up and I made an armor out of it. And Ashutosh was like, you're crazy, only you can do this. And we made the armor and we made that scene happen. Otherwise, that entire day would have been lost.
My God.
So, so that's just presence of mind, technique, and knowing what to do in a stressful situation.
So do you think that this is a knack which Nita has it personally, or is it more to do with your experience which lies behind?
I think it's experience and knowledge of the techniques from my studying education.
Yeah.
That I could do this.
Right.
And I really wish that students pick this up as well.
As a designer, you are responsible for evolution of fashion, and you have witnessed almost 4 fashion eras. How do you know when to pivot?
So, Neha, when I started off with the little knowledge I had and the fashion background I had, I was almost a little ahead in fashion. So it worked 2 ways for me. Again, because I was working on two lines parallelly. For films, it worked brilliantly, because those days a film was made after a year it would release. So you had to be abreast of fashion and kind of know what to put in for a year later.
Correct.
Mainstream was still in a bleak. So you came up with interesting ideas and thought processes and you put it out there. accepted, non-accepted was according to what the audiences or the consumer decided. The next era came where a little more of fashion became, with, I think it was Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam for me, where suddenly everybody spoke about fashion and clothes and everything. And magazines started coming in and people started talking about clothes. So when that came in, of course, films, the time span became slightly shorter. Instead of 1.5 years, they started making it a little shorter time. And people started getting more aware of fashion. So, but fashion was 6 months dated than what was in Paris.
Yeah, right.
So I was the first designer to go outside the country, go to Paris, go to London, shop for films, come back. So I used to get the newest of things, and I used to see what was being done there. So I used to transcend that into my mainstream clothes. So my clothes started not selling that much because people didn't understand what is this till 8 months or a year later that they realized, okay, she had done this
before.
Yeah. Things like that, stitch saris, concept saris. I had seen Zandra Rhodes do it, so I was doing it. And that suddenly came about. Third era, everything started getting digitized, and films and fashion together went simultaneously. And the time span of film became shorter. A movie was being made in 8 months. And Jodha Akbar, blatantly people would come and say, this outfit from Jodha Akbar, can you make it identical for me? So that line got blurred and it started moving together. Today, I think a lot of films take inspiration from mainstream and they bring it into films. Unless it's a period film where I come into picture and I kind of put everything together, but everything is today. And we are a nation of young fashion aspirants. So we pick up everything so quickly that everything is at par with Paris, with London, and we are fashionable. We have arrived. We are there. So those lines are getting blurred and we are very in touch with the trends today. And youngsters, housewives, working women all want to have that statement in their style.
Right.
So those lines have blurred in this order chronologically as I would have seen it.
Yeah. The experience working with him is truly immersive. So do you think that with this experience, are you able to gauge what the fashion trend would look like in next 6 months or 8 months or 1 year? Because since you mentioned, you do movies with that same lens.
So, a knack that I have is I can study the coming trends. I study trends. So, and it's part of what I've studied in college.
Okay.
So, I can gauge that this is coming up. But in today's times, Neha, it's not that imperative.
Yeah.
Because it's there. And as far as Sanjay is concerned, Sanjay Leela Bansali's films, I did Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam, I did Devdas. That point in time, it was like a group of young kids sitting together having samosa and cold coffee and, discussing Paro and discussing Nandini.
Yeah.
And so it was not the Sanjay Leela Bansali I was working with who, you see today. It was like a group that was working on a film.
Well.
And we all had different aesthetics which we brought to the table. And we all kind of took in from there, from each other.
Right. Yeah.
So it was a collective, collaborative effort. And that time, because of the kind of films I did, there was not a necessity to do trends. But there was a necessity to be able to build a character.
Yeah.
So we used to travel to Bhuj. The whole team traveled to Bhuj. We went there. We saw all the bandhani. We saw the ladies, the way they were sitting and working. And they were very progressive, Bhuj had a very progressive bunch of women that we saw working. Everything. They were multitasking, basically. And the lot of bandhani and everything that I saw for a designer, it was but natural that, okay, there's a bandhani skirt, let's give a bandhani skirt. But I told Sanjay, I said, Sanjay, I don't want to give Nandini a bandhani skirt. I want, because she's educated, I want her to have a little more, of course, that time I said contemporary edge to it because she has done college, and I wouldn't see her in a heavy bandhani lehenga with mirror work on it. He said, okay, so go for it. What's the problem? I said, okay. And I used bandhani on her blouses, which were cut in an Edwardian style. They were not traditional Indian blouses. They looked traditional Indian.
Yeah.
And I did not use mirror work on her lehengas. I used organza.
Yes, yes.
And I used 3 colors. I played with 3 colors because that was how colorful Gujarat was. And the mirror work was very subtle on either the dupatta or the blouse. And I think that worked. So, more than a trend, it is about transcending a philosophy of aesthetics into your garments. That is very essential.
Yes.
And today I see that these lines, even in mainstream, are blurred. A lot of designers are speaking about follow your style statement, don't follow your trend. Bhai, we've been saying this for the last 30 years.
Yes.
Follow your style statement, don't just follow trends.
Right. How immersive is a life of a designer? Because, as you said that, you go to a certain location, you keep, you analyze things, you see things from the creative lenses. So are the designers always looking for eye for a detail, or are they, because, it becomes a habit of you analyzing things. Does it happen with you as well?
See, I can speak only for myself, but today there is a lot of social media and digital medium that a lot of designers access.
Yeah.
What I trained with was library books and actually going to the places and studying. Even Devdas was the same. We went to Calcutta and studied. Met a couple of families, spoke to them, things like that. So I had a lot of hands-on knowledge about the work. I think a designer is as immersive as a designer wants to be.
Subjective.
Okay. And you need to, be able to have that hunger in your stomach to want to learn more than what you've got on digital mediums, want to learn more, speak to more people. I mean, that is something that even today, it kind of engulfs me, it excites me, it intrigues me,
Yeah.
So it's very subjective to person.
Correct. Okay, great. Looking back at your journey, what core values do you think that has helped you anchor your success, especially in the industry which is every day changing and so dynamic?
I think a lot of resilience.
Yes.
A lot of patience, which when you look at me, I don't have. But at work, I definitely do.
Yeah.
And that is something that one needs to have. Essentially, because on a slightly serious note, Neha, if you're a complete woman of a family, kids, and work, you are walking a lot of lines. And all those become a tightrope that you need to kind of hobble on.
Yes.
So how you juggle that, how you hustle that, and sometimes you have an issue at home, sometimes you have an issue at work.
Yes.
What kind of patience do you have to combat that? What kind of resilience do you have to
thrive
on that, And then for yourself, what kind of intrigue value you have in your system and excitement about your work, and which normally people transcend into passion. Yes. What kind of excitement do you have for your work that you forget what is there, leave it there, and come and do what you have to do it to the best of your ability.
Correct.
So I guess that's what keeps you going, and that's what one has to kind of...
And how do you place, since you were talking about juggling and, keeping upbeat with, all the roots and threads possible, how do you keep work-life balance in your such an eventful journey?
Work-life balance, I think, is, when you're an entrepreneur, And when you want to do so much, then work-life balance goes in the back burner. And I kind of come from an era where we didn't see work-life balance, to be very honest. Today, people are talking about work-life balance because there's a lot of inspiration and aspirations and ambitions that sometimes require you to have that peace of mind.
Yes.
But for me, every flight that I take out of one place to another, and that time it gives me, is my work-life balance, is my holiday. Every place I visit to understand things or to purchase things for my films is my holiday. So I don't really miss a work-life balance. I mean, the minute I see my grandkids, there is like a nirvana in my system. So that's my work-life balance.
Soul rejuvenates.
Yeah. So, and I, even when I'm watching a movie, I'm sketching, I'm doing work. So I don't understand that aspect for myself. I'm talking personally for me.
Despite the unprecedented success, fame that you've had, in your kitty, you've always stayed so grounded, and I myself am a fan.
Thank you.
How do you do that?
I don't think you need to do that. I think that is a quality you kind of inherit over time.
Carried away, Deeta. I mean, people get carried away with fame and success, but I'm sure there's some special.
Well, as they say, if it's meant to be, it's up to me.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I think for me, work was an aspect, family was an aspect, kids were an aspect. So I was kind of jumping. I remember a very popular person had once told me, "You are like a Sri Devi in the industry. You finish your work and you walk out. You don't sit with us. You don't talk to us." I said, "Have I given you the best quality work?" "Yes." I said, "That's it."
Lovely. And so how has your family changed your creative lens? I mean, I'm sure, they must have.
The freedom I got from my husband, go fly, fly with your dreams and ambition, is what my family has given me. And moreover, when my kids were growing up, like I said, I bought that one machine.
Yeah.
I had it in my house.
Is it still there?
Yes, I still have it.
Wow.
So I had that in my house. Then I bought another one, then another one, then another one. So I had about 4 to 5 machines in one room in my house, and I was working out of there. So I was always home when I was home. So kids, attending to kids, and I had great in-laws. They would look after the kids if I was not there, and and I think joint family is a blessing in that manner. And you need someone elder there.
Yeah, you need to build your support system around you.
My son didn't even know I was his mother. He used to call me Neeta till he was 5. I was 17 years older to him. So my mother-in-law would take care. My mom would take care. So that is something that I find a blessing. And when they let you do your work, of course there is certain parameters, but predominantly when they let you do your work fully.
Yes.
And I was at home. I was not like I was out. So I used to do it.
Great. What is it like watching your daughter now make her own mark in fashion? Does the blend of her style also go with the generational needs? Does she blend your style in her generational needs?
Not at all. My daughter is a full bohemian.
Okay.
I am a full larger than life. And we are two different people. I'm hoping my granddaughter picks up on because she is showing those traits.
Okay.
But my daughter had her own style. identity, minimalism. Even when you see her doing her makeup, she's very minimalistic. When you see me,
Yeah.
the same makeup artist, I said, go do your thing, just do what color you want, do whatever you want. And I do my own makeup. So she's like, wow, so much makeup. I said, yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Contrast.
It's a full contrast.
Yeah.
So she has her own brand. We are two different identities. We have two different businesses. As a mother, I felt the need to empower my daughter.
Yes.
I felt the need for her to have her own brand, which as a legacy she took with her when she got married. There's always this thing in a mother's mind that my daughter should be self-sufficient, should be able to stand on her own feet, God forbid. But she has a wonderful family, she has a wonderful husband, and everything's kind of, touch wood, everything's great. But that is where I started building her brand for her, which for me was like, you take not jewelry with you, whatever your needs are, but you take this with you because this will facilitate your growth in future.
Correct. That's exactly. We'll break down the fundamentals of empowerment for you when you say that, you always wanted to empower your daughter. So if you can break down, what was empowering Nishka was?
See, my dad empowered me a lot. And I learned from there. My mother empowered me a hell of a lot. Of course, in the household chores, which I tried to do with Nishka, but I failed miserably. But I just felt that as a girl, of course, she was born in the 80s, 90s, and that was our mindset. Today things have changed a lot. Today you go with the flow of things. So I felt that she needs to stand on her feet. She needs to have an education. She needs to be able to have a vocation that she can, even if we cannot give her the money, she can fend for herself. In the honest truth of it.
True.
Ki kal ko, I can't give you anything. You stand on your feet, you can take a job, you can start a business, you can do anything. So for me, that was empowerment. And empowerment for me was a sense of security, a sense of strength, inner strength, a sense of standing up for yourself when you want to.
Yes, yeah.
So I did it. So I said, why can't she do it? Why can't she have it also? I mean, as parents, you give your kids everything.
Yes.
You give the best to them, to whatever you can. The best of travel, the best of education, the best of clothes, jewelry, whatever they want. But what stays with them is their hunar, as you call it.
Yes.
Their craft.
Correct.
And that is what I wanted her to have.
That's so beautiful, Neeta. That's so, so beautiful. Knowing somebody who's believed in empowerment and breaking it down, because I think this is the buzzword and people mistake it for so many things that we've heard and we've known. So that's it. That is truly beautiful. Do you see your legacy going beyond fashion?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very greedy as far as my work is concerned. Okay. I want it all. I want to build the heritage which I have built. I've built the legacy, but I want to see it go beyond. I always say I want to see it go beyond. But in terms of when you talk of the corporate world, people tell you that, okay, you want funding, you want your legacy to be built larger than life. Who's your second in command? And for me, from my perspective, in the field of couture and in the field that I work with, you can't have a second in command who is from the family, who is a face. When it's ready to wear, when it's another business, you can have a face that is there.
True.
Of course, I'm not a management person. I've not done marketing management, but this is what my sensibility tells me. Okay, the biggest brands like Gucci and Tom and whoever you take, LV, Karl Lagerfeld, Coco Chanel, the second in command didn't come from the family. The second in command came from the person who understood the brand
True.
ethos.
Ethos of the brand. Yeah.
So I'm like, the guy who's worked with me for 20 years and has come up with me from a peon to my being my first assistant today. He's my second in command.
Correct.
My assistants who work, my first AD who works on films, who has worked with me for 12 years, she's my second in command. So it's not necessary that my kids are my second in command.
Correct.
So funding ends there.
Yeah. Yes. It ends there.
But couture cannot have that, because couture needs an understanding, in-depth understanding of the ethos of what you're doing.
True. True.
Today when I'm here, I know that my assistant who's sitting back at the production unit can tell them exactly what I will want in the clothes. That is what a second in command does.
Does. You have dressed countless stars, walked global ramps, been the reason behind future icons. But when Neeta sits with her peaceful self, has there been a moment of doubt?
Doubt? No.
You never had a moment of doubt.
The minute you doubt yourself, you start getting insecure.
Yes.
So be so strong inside. Be so strong with yourself that you don't doubt your technique, that you don't doubt yourself, even for a minute. And be true to your work. Be true to what you're doing. Give it your 100%. Then why the doubt?
And has things ever gone not as per how you wanted them?
Oh, 100 times.
Oh, but you
But
made
to
your
salvage
way.
it?
Yeah.
There was one time where I was in the middle of the ocean. It was a wedding which was on a ship, and we had done this gorgeous LED gown. Okay, and we had hardly 5 minutes to get the bride ready and take her, because there were certain timings on the ship that you could, do certain on the event. There was some something that was being done that we had only 5 minutes, and I zipped up the bride, and the zip opened out. And she could have gone ballistic, but she said, I just think the zip opened out. I said, yes. And we were both standing like this. I said, do you trust me? She said, yes, I do. And I took the needle and thread, and my assistants know what I need immediately. And then everything was ready, and I started stitching her up. And I had to be careful because it was an LED gown. If I had to put one wrong stitch,
And
the lights would have gone off on the whole gown.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So I've stitched her up, and obviously she has to go through the whole night with that stitching,
And this would have happened on the deck, which is moving.
which is moving.
Oh my God.
So I'm getting goosebumps even
Bizarre.
thinking.
I
about it.
know.
And we got it done, and we took her there. And she went through the night dancing and everything. And I was like, okay, is everything okay?
So the first second that something happens, what do you think? Do you feel that?
The fear?
Yeah, the fear.
No.
I mean, no.
No, I
Wow.
think I'm like, how do I combat this?
And is this has been always the common trait in you ever since?
Always.
Because of course people get calm, they tend to get more patient with the experience that they built. But if this has been since beginning, then
So my dad taught me
You know.
driving.
okay.
Okay, Neha. And I guess I contributed to that. Possibly. I don't know. I don't know. But I'm bringing this up because my dad taught me driving. And we used to travel from Sikandrabad to Shamshabad, which is about 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers.
Yeah.
So he would keep his mug of chai on the dashboard and says, this will not fall. I do not want this to fall. And it was a wobbly road. Those days there were no roads in
Yeah.
Shamshabad. And I was not scared. I was looking at the road and looking at the chai, looking at the road and looking at the chai. Damn, that thing should not fall. So I guess that is where it all came from. You know, I can't fear. There's no time to fear.
No time to fear. Yeah.
There's only time to combat.
Correct. Correct.
So that is it.
Behind every powerful legacy that is built, there are legendary sacrifices. Today is the day where we would want you to share and open about those sacrifices which the generation needs to know and feel motivated.
So the biggest sacrifice, I guess, would be that as a mother, I didn't have the full time that normally homemakers have. You know, at times I kind of sit back and say, I wasn't a full-time homemaker. But I'm happy the way my kids have panned out. I'm happy the way they are good-natured and, you know, they look after them. They've got good values. And it's also because I had a great set of in-laws and parents who looked after them. So I also think that to get something, you need to give something.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's a choice that you make as a person. It's not, you're not selfish if you want to make that choice of, you know, doing the work. It's a choice that you make. That I want to give my kids the best life. I want to give them an education abroad. So I need to work for it. I don't want my parents to fund it. I don't want anybody else to fund it. I want to fund it with my husband. So I need to work. So in that case, if out of 10 hours, if I would have given my kids and nagged at them and khana khao, pado, ye karo, wo karo, if I've got 4 hours of quality time, I've got it. That is something I think about. I think about the fact that should I have been educated more? You know, because when I see so many MBAs and graduates and sometimes I'm standing in this group of Harvard graduates and I'm feeling like this 10 standard pass. What am I doing here? And I listen to them. I'm like, I should have educated more. And I tell them also, I wish I would have studied. And then they turn around and say, I wish I had made a legacy like you.
Correct. Absolutely.
So there is something you give up in life to get something in life.
What is success to you?
Success is what I'm getting today. Sitting here, enjoying a talk is success. Doing the work, being able to do it to the best of my ability, creating what is required is success. Getting a bride to come and tell me that how much she loves her outfit even today is success.
Wow.
You know, so for me, this is my fund of success.
Beautiful. Does Neeta Lula cry?
Oh, yes.
Often?
When I see a movie and it touches me, I cry. When I hear a song which is beautiful, Tare Zameen Pe, I cry.
Oh.
So of course I cry. I mean, we all cry. It's not a man or a woman thing. It's just an emotion.
Yes.
And let it out.
So beautiful. And with this, I guess we have reached the end of the show.
Thank you.
Where we had an opportunity knowing you from a very, very different lens. We knew somebody who's been a costume technician, somebody who's been a choreographer. But I think we spoke more about who the real Neeta Lula is behind the face that the world knows. Very beautiful. We'll get you on a quick rapid fire, Neeta.
Done.
Right? Yeah, let's get started. Lehenga or sari? Your
Sari.
Favorite. Okay. Designing for Aishwarya or styling Sridevi?
Designing Sridevi.
Okay. When you say that, will you elaborate?
Because I learned a lot from her.
Okay.
And I transcended that learning into Aishwarya.
Beautiful. Smart one. If fashion was a dish, what would your signature dish be called?
Pani Puri.
Oh, lovely. 3 words to describe your design style.
Magnanimous, larger than life, and iconic.
Wow, very nice. Most bizarre outfit request you've ever gotten?
Most bizarre outfit request I've ever gotten is to have the groom's outfit much more prettier and larger than life than the bride's.
Wow. If you could raid one celebrity's wardrobe, who would it be?
They've raided mine. They've raided mine, of course.
Many a times.
I don't get to the wardrobes.
No? Okay.
But I've raided Hemaji's wardrobe
Really?
to get saris from her for a film, and she very graciously gave it to me.
And did you also made a gown out of it? How it was?
No. I used her saris for a film called Thalaivi for Kangana.
Yeah.
I went and raided her wardrobe and said, "Give me all your saris from that time." And she very graciously gave it to me.
Oh, sweet. How sweet. Party all night long or peaceful getaways?
Party all night long.
Wow. Your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasures. Movies on my sofa.
What's the first thing Neeta like to do when she wakes up?
I, contrary to what one must think, I wake up at 5, I meditate, I work out, and I journal.
Wow, lovely. What would be the title of your fashion biopic?
Fashion biopic. Jeena yahan, marna yahan, iske siwa jana kahan.
Lovely, 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 lovely. So with this, we have come to an end. A conversation which has been eternally blissful. I am so happy that, we got to sit together, have a conversation. It's so beautiful to learn from leaders who talk about resilience, who talk about patience, who talk about never giving up attitude. And I think that's exactly has been the reason who she is today, the Neeta Lula. Thank you guys once again. It's a lovely, lovely, lovely conversation. I'm still not able to get out of it, pinch myself. And in all honesty, I would like to commit to this, that I will definitely keep up to the perks that I've got from you.
Thank you.
Keep growing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure to be here and talk to you.